Hello and welcome. I'm Mr. Hartley, and this is the first tutorial video for your texting and driving program. In this video, we're going to learn how to code your texting and driving program, and we'll do the first couple of steps together to get your distance while distracted and distance while reacting equations in. Okay, but first, before we get started, I want to mention that before you start your program, you need to finish something on paper. You need to finish the system analysis summary calculations, texting and driving. So this is a summary worksheet that talks about everything that we've done in this unit so far and gives us a bunch of equations that we're going to use. So get this out and have it nearby so you can code your program. And if you haven't done it yet, I want you to pause this video and work through the class average data section where you're solving these problems by hand. Because once you understand how to do it by hand, then we can make our computer do it. All right, so once we have that in hand, now we can get started. But I've had a lot of you guys tell me that you're not quite sure how to use a computer program like Google Sheets to do programming. The good news is it's really simple. Okay, so the first couple of minutes is going to be dedicated to that. So you can skip ahead until I'm back on this screen where I'm talking about this. If you are super comfortable and familiar with spreadsheets. If not, well, here we go. So I've got a little sheet here that I've popped in just to do a little quick tutorial here. All right, so how does a spreadsheet work? Well, first, a spreadsheet is made up of all of these different individual cells. So I can click around and get a bunch of different cells, and the cells have names. Okay, so the names are made by these columns here. So I've got column A, column B, column C, column D, and then they have rows as well. So rows 1 through, however many numbers you want. All right, so each cell has a name. So for example, this cell is called A4, that cell is called B4, that cell is called C4. This is going to be important later. Each cell has a name. Well, why are spreadsheets useful? Spreadsheets are useful because we can use them like a calculator. We can put in numbers and have it calculate things for us. And because the spreadsheet already has all the numbers in there, we can have it do the same calculation with different numbers over and over and over and over again, which is much easier than doing the same calculation over and over and over again by hand. So it's going to be really useful because I'm going to ask you to do a ton of physics problems, but you're going to have something that's just going to quickly do it automatically for you. So we just have to build it ourselves. Okay, so how does our program work? Well, we're going to split it up by having some inputs on one side and outputs on another. So over here in green, we're going to have inputs, and outputs are going to go in over here. So what are inputs? Inputs are just numbers we put into our calculator, and outputs are the numbers that come out. So here's an example. Over here, I'm just going to type in some numbers. And you can see on the left, I've got value 1. So what is value 1? Let's just say it's, 3. Okay, so 3. Value 1 is 3. And then value 2. Well, what is value 2? Let's say it's 5. Okay, cool. So value 1 is 3. Value 2 is 5. And now we're going to do some math here. And this box is where we're going to do a calculation. We're going to calculate numbers here. What is value 1 plus value 2? Well, that's pretty easy, right? It's just 3 plus 5, so that would be 8. But we don't want to do it in our head. We want to make our computer do it. So I am going to code. I'm going to tell the computer to do some math for me. So over here it says, to begin coding, I hit equal sign. So I'm going to go to the cell where I want the answer. So this is where the answer is going to pop out, and I'm going to hit equal sign. And that tells the computer, see how it went over to the left side? It tells the computer I'm about to write in some code here. Okay, so I want value 1 plus value 2, but I'm not going to type in 3 plus 5. I'm going to type in the cell that I have here. So this cell is C5. So I've got cell C5. And see how it highlighted this cell in orange? Great. So now I've got whatever's in this one, value 1, plus, so I'm going to do plus sign on my keyboard. And then I've got cell C7 for value 2. So I've got cell C7 for value 2. And now you can see it in purple. Okay, great. So I hit equals, I've got all my math in here, and now I'm going to hit enter to end the coding. Look, it gives me the answer here. And here's the really cool thing. Okay, cool. So I've got 3 plus 5, whatever, it's 8. Okay, but now the really cool thing is I can come over here and I can change the number I have here. So if I don't want to know 3 plus 8, I want to know 3 plus 4. Well, what is that? I hit enter, it changes it to 7 over here. Okay, so it's doing all of that math for us automatically. Great. I can do the same thing with multiplication. And there's another cool trick I can do to make it a little bit easier. I can click the boxes that I want instead of typing in their names. So to start coding, again, I'm going to hit equal sign. And then I'm going to click the boxes that I want. So I want value 1 times, in this case, I want times value 2. So do value 1, which is 3. And then to do multiplication, you have to do shift 8. That's called an asterisk. So I'm doing shift 8, C5 times, there's an asterisk, shift 8, and then I'm going to click the box that I want, value 2. C5 times, or value 1 times value 2. I'm going to hit enter. And now in this box, I have 3 times 4. I know 3 times 4 to be 12, but I could change this number to 3. And notice what happens. Both my things are going to change because now I've got value 1 plus value 2. I've got 3 plus 3. That's 6 in this box. And then down here, I've got value 1 times value 2. That's 9 in this box right here. Okay, awesome. That's the basics of coding. Let's see how we can apply this to our systems analysis, texting, and driving. Okay, so remember, our simulation is trying to calculate the distance traveled while distracting, the different distance traveled while reacting, and the distance traveled while braking. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those 3 numbers to calculate the total distance that the car travels, and then we're going to compare it to the initial distance of the walker. If this distance is greater than the distance of the walker, then that means our walker got hit. It's a dangerous situation. Okay, so let's get started by coding this first piece. Well, this first piece is going to come from the calculation you did on your texting and driving systems analysis summary calculations. We did a 4-step method problem to calculate the distance traveled while distracted. So I'm just pulling all that information from this 4-step method problem in order to solve this one. Okay, that means I've got to set up all my inputs. So what inputs do I need for this one? Well, first I need the velocity of the car. And I'm going to do like equal sign here so it shows up really nice. And I'm even going to, I'm going to highlight over here just so it looks a little bit nicer. I'm going to go over to the side and I'm going to select that it goes over to the right-hand side so that it looks really nice. Okay, so velocity of the car is going to equal something. Let's say that the velocity of the car equals 10 from our values. And then in the cell next to my numbers, I'm going to put my units. So the units of velocity are meters per second. The reason I did it outside of the box is because if I put letters inside of a cell where it's doing calculations, look at what happens. I put some letters in here, like if I have 3 and then I'd want to do 3 meters per second, hit enter, look what happens. The computer gets confused because it doesn't know how to do math on letters, it only knows how to do math on numbers. So if I wanted to do that more appropriately, I would erase my units and put them in the box next door. There. Okay, great. And it would read as 3 meters per second. Okay, cool. Now, we want the velocity of the car. We also want the time while distracted. And that is going to be, let's just put in a placeholder number. Let's say it's 2 seconds of distraction time. Okay, just a number. And then 2 seconds. Great. Now, we want our output. We want to calculate the distance traveled while distracted. That is going to equal, well, let's get organized here. So over here in this column, I've got my distance outputs. Now, my distance outputs are going to be based on my inputs. So I have some coding to do here. All right, this is where my calculations come in. So I'm going to hit equal sign to start coding. And I know from my texting and driving system analysis, I've got an equation here. I use the equation distance equals velocity times time. This should be from your 4-step method problem. So I've got distance equals velocity times time. Well, look, I've got my velocity right here. Distance equals velocity in that cell times the time in that cell. And I hit enter. Okay, great. It calculated the distance traveled while distracted. And let's put the units right here. I've got meters right there. Great. And now look, I can change it for any amount of distraction time. Let's say they're distracted for 5 seconds. Instead, it's 50 meters. I change the initial velocity to 20 meters per second. Okay, suddenly we're traveling these really, really big distances. But the important part is it calculates it for us automatically. Let's do that next section together. Okay, so this section is going to be similar. The distance traveled while reacting is going to be similar because it's traveling at a constant velocity. So it's just number 2, calculate the distance traveled while reacting. We're going to have our computer do this instead. So let's set up our inputs here. So the velocity of the car is important here. Oh, and I'm going to organize it as well, justify it to the left-hand side, the right-hand side. And then I have the time while reacting. And in your program, you can name these variables whatever you want. You could call it reaction time, whatever. And then finally, we're going to have the distance traveled while reacting. Okay. And then let's have our units as well. So I've got meters per second here. And then time is in seconds. And then this distance is going to be in meters. Oops. In meters. Great. Now, the velocity of the car should still be that same value as before. So here's what I like to do. Actually, you can set it so that you don't have to input anything here. You can hit equal sign, and you can say, hey, I like this input up here. We know the distance traveled, the velocity while distracted and the velocity while reacting should just be the same. We're not hitting the brakes or hitting the gas. So I'm just going to click on this cell right here. This cell is always going to be equal to the velocity of the car you put in for the distraction. Okay, so I hit enter here. And now, when I change this value up here, it'll change it down below as well. Okay, so that's a nice bit of coding just to make things a little bit faster. Now, the time while reacting is generally less than the time while distracted. So let's say it's human reaction time, 0.3 seconds. And then I do my calculation one more time. So I want to know the distance traveled while reacting. I know that I'm traveling at a constant velocity, so I've got the same equation. D equals V times T. So I hit equal sign, and it's just the velocity times the time. So I've got this velocity right here times, that's shift 8 to get an asterisk, and then I put time while reacting right there and hit enter, and it's just multiplying those two numbers together to give me a distance traveled. Now, before we move on to the next video where we're talking about the distance traveled while braking, let's organize this sheet a little bit to give color-coded cells for our inputs and our outputs. So when someone is using this program, they should know that they should type numbers into these input cells. So let's put green right here. I'm going to go up to the paint can, fill color, and I'm going to make these a nice light green here and here. And we want the user to not be able to change this, okay? The calculator shouldn't be able to be messed with, okay? So let's make this red. Okay? Nobody needs to type into this cell, okay? It's automatically calculating things for you. You don't need to type anything there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing for my reaction section. Green inputs here and here, and a red output there. Okay, great. I hope that made sense. I hope you were following along, because next we're going to get a little bit more complicated when we talk about the distance traveled while braking.